Hello everybody, it's Crystal. Welcome to my channel. So today I have a stitch tutorial for you. Very easy one. I'm going to show you how to crochet the double crochet thermal stitch. So looks the same on both sides. Now what this pretty much is, it's super thick fabric. So this is like good for like pot holders and things like that. It's pretty much what you're doing is double crocheting 2 rows together. That's pretty much what it is, on top of each other. I do have a hat made out of this guy's little brother, the single crochet thermal stitch. I'll put a link to that below in the description box if I remember. So you can make hats out of it as well, the single and the double crochet thermal stitch. But like I said, it's like an extremely thick, squishy fabric. I think it would make excellent placemats, pot holders, things like that for the kitchen. It made, when I did it in single crochet, it made a very beautiful hat. And like I said, it's extremely easy to do. So do you guys want to go ahead and get started? Very thick. All right. So the yarn that I use for this particular stitch tutorial is Lion Brand Heartland, which is a 100% acrylic medium weight number 4. The color that I have here is called Redwood. And I'm going to be using a size I, which is a 5.5mm crochet hook. And you, whatever, depending on what you're making with yours, you can use whatever yarn and hook that you choose. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, let's do this. So the double crochet thermal stitch has no stitch multiple. That's nice. I like stitches like that. They're easy to incorporate into other stitches. So you want to go ahead and start with a slip knot on your hook. I do want to mention though that the double crochet thermal is worked on the vertical. I'll tell you what I mean by that. First off though, you want to chain. Remember, there is no multiple, so you chain in any number of stitches. You don't even have to keep count if you don't want to. Like if you're not, you know, you're just fiddling around making a blanket or something. You just chain to the size that you want. Now when I say it's worked on the vertical, what I mean by that is, so normally we would, which we will for the first row, we would go across with a row of double crochet. But when you do the thermal stitch and when it's finished, it's actually going to run vertical. So the double crochet rows are going to run this way. All right. So I don't know if you want to keep that in mind for whatever project you're doing, but yes, it will be, they run on the vertical. All right. So this first row, we're going to be working double crochet, but we're always going to be working in the back loop, and that also starts with this very first chain. So you see how there's the loop here. This is our beginning chain that's closest to us, and the loop furthest away, that's the back loop. And then some people like to go in this back bump right here. But whatever you usually like to do for this stitch, we have to go into the back loop. So in the 4th chain from the hook, we don't count the one that's on our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We do a double crochet, just going through that one loop back there. All right. So for this stitch, it has to be done that way. And then we're going to do a double crochet in that back loop of the chain for every stitch for the length of your chain. Remember, we're just going in that one loop. All right, so you continue this, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. All right, so we've made it to the end of the row. We have our row of double crochet. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to chain one. We're not going to turn. We're just going to chain one, and we're going to kind of work on the vertical now. So that chain one doesn't count as a stitch. It doesn't count as anything. So if you look down here is the remaining loops from that we didn't go into when we went in the back loop. It's the remaining front loops. And then when you look up here, here's the top of our stitches. So what we have to do is we have to go through the back loop up here. Now it will appear to be, it's just the very first stitch here, not this chain one. It will appear to be the front loop from this side when you're working the vertical, but if you was to turn it and look at it, you could see that it is the back loop. So what you want to do is yarn over and go through that loop, and then go all the way down and go through that loop on the base chain like that. And you want to grab your yarn and pull through both loops like that. It's gonna like scrunch them up a bit, but that's okay. And then you're just gonna go ahead and do your yarn over and go through and do your double crochet like normal, just like that. So we're going to do it again going into the next stitch. So we just went into that one. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go into this loop here of the next one and follow it all the way down to the next loop of your base chain and pull through both loops like that. And then you go ahead and you can pull it up a little bit taller if you want. Finish out your double crochet like you normally would. And we're going to do this all the way down. So again, we find our next stitch, which is right here, and we're going to yarn over and we go through this loop right here. It's actually the back loop if you're looking at it, and then the next loop down here on the base chain that we didn't go into right there. And we yarn over and pull through both of those loops. And you can pull it up just a bit taller like that, and then do your double crochet like normal. And we're going to do this all the way down. So again, yarn over and you find the next stitch that you didn't work in. So we're right here. And you go down to the base chain here that we haven't worked in and go into that one and yarn over and pull through both loops, pull it up just a little bit, and then do your double crochet like normal. Again, let's yarn over and go through the next one that we haven't worked in, which is right here, that one loop, and follow it down to the one loop on the base chain that we haven't worked in. Oops. Right there. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Pull it up just a little bit more. Not real tall, but a little bit taller. And then do your double crochet like normal. And we're going to continue this all the way down. Yarn over and go through this one loop here. And follow it down and go through the next loop on the base chain that we have not worked in. Right there. Yarn over and pull through both of those loops, pull it up just a bit, and then do your double crochet like normal. So we're going to go ahead and do this until we get near the end of the row, okay? Alright, so I'm coming to the end here, and remember the last stitch is actually the chain 3 because we did a double crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook, so we have that chain on the end. This is the only row that will have that. So do the same thing, yarn over and try to hit that front loop of that chain 3 if you can. Do the best that you can. And then down here, the last row of the churn and chain, it doesn't have to be exact on this last stitch, but pull through like that and then do your double crochet like normal. There it is. So that's one row done. All right, now what we're going to do is chain one again. Now that chain one is not going to count as a stitch. Now, when it comes to turning your work, when you're working on the vertical, a stitch on the vertical, not a lot of stitches are really, some are worked on the vertical, but when they are, you know, generally you work a stitch back and forth, and when you turn your work, you flip it like a page of the book. Now, when you're working the vertical, like we are right now, this is how you turn your work. You just flip it just like that, vertical wise. And then we're just going to do the same thing again that we just did. So we don't go into that chain one because it doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to yarn over and go into this loop here on this top piece, and down here the loop on the bottom. Pull through both of those, pull it up just a bit, and double crochet like normal. And we're going to do this all the way down. So yarn over and go through this loop here. I know it appears to be the front loop, but if you look at it straight on like this, it is the back loop. But go through that one. And then you find, go down here and you find the loop that has not been worked, which is this one. Pull it through both loops, pull it up just a bit, and double crochet like normal. And we're going to do this all the way down. So yarn over and go into that loop on the top, and then we go into the one on the bottom that has not been worked. Pull through and then a double crochet like normal. And it's the same thing that we just did, going through this loop and then that loop down here on the bottom like that. Pull it up, double crochet like normal, yarn over, go into the loop of the next stitch, and then the one on the bottom that has not been worked. Just like that. And we're going to do this all the way down. Now, if you do want to keep track of your stitches, you can, to keep count, to make sure you're hitting the right amount. I actually didn't count mine, but I probably should have. But I'm going to continue going all the way down until I make it to the end. All right, I'm coming to the end, and my last stitch here, I'm going to go through the loop on the last stitch here and the loop on the last stitch on the bottom, pull through and do my double crochet like normal, and that row is done. And what are we going to do now? We're going to chain one, and then we flip it vertical like that, and we do it again. So remember that chain one doesn't count as a stitch, so we go ahead and go back into that side loop there and into the loop on the bottom, and pull through those two, and then do your double crochet like normal. Again, the next stitch here, the one loop, and then the next stitch on the bottom, yarn over, pull through, and double crochet like normal. So we're just going to keep it doing rows just like this. Double crochet rows done on the vertical to create the double crochet thermal stitch. It's a very thick stitch, as I mentioned. You can do as many rows as you like, depending on what you're making. So when you make it all the way down to the bottom again, then you just chain one and do the vertical flip and do it again. Just keep repeating that row. All right, so I done a few rows just for demonstration purposes, but you do as many rows as you want, and I made it to the end. It's nice and thick. So when you get to the end and you're done and you don't want your piece any bigger, You see you have this ridge up here at the top. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of that ridge so it's, you know, just not hanging out there. So we're gonna do it the same way, except for, we're gonna chain one, and then we're gonna vertically flip our work. Instead of just going through one loop this time, we're gonna yarn over and go through both loops of the top, and then that one loop down here, and then pull through and do your double crochet like normal. And that's the only difference. So yarn over, and instead of going through one loop, this is when we're closing off, you know, and you're finished, you want to get rid of this last ridge row. Go through both loops, and then go down to the bottom loop here that you haven't worked in, pull through, and double crochet. And this is how we close it off at the end, both loops. So like I said, it's the same, except we're just going through both loops on the top now instead of just one, but we're still going through one on the bottom. And that is it. Once this is completed all the way down, you'll have a nice thick piece of fabric. Like I mentioned, great for pot holders, and if I remember, I will drop the link to that single crochet thermal stitch hat. You could definitely follow that and use the double crochet instead. You know, it'd be done pretty much the same way, except for using the stitch. How that was done was back and forth, and then seamed up down, and then sewn up at the top. So that's it. And then, as you can see, after you continue all the way down, you're all closed up. That's it. And that's how you do, well, of course I had to finish that up, close off that ridge, but that is how you do the double crochet thermal stitch. Nice and thick. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, okay? Look in the description box below for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more free tutorials. Bye guys.